Columbia, Missouri, 1982. A crowd waits patiently as Bob Chandler sits in his 1974 Ford F-250. The massive 460 cubic inch engine gurgles and spits like a hungry wolf ready to devour its prey. It rides high on 48-inch wheels. The decal on the side of the truck reads, Bigfoot. The crowd is completely consumed by the spectacle. No one's ever seen a truck like this before. Suddenly, it's go time. He lurches forward. Little did Bob know, this moment would set off a chain reaction that would snowball into one of the most dramatic motorsports to ever exist. Talking monster trucks today, baby. A big old thank you to Manscaped.com for sponsoring today's episode of Wheelhouse. This holiday season, Manscaped is making it easier than ever to give the gift of clean, round ornaments without any nicks or cuts. The Lawnmower 3.0 is a perfect gift for yourself or that special someone who, let's be frank, may need to spend a little more time in Santa's downstairs workshop. The Lawnmower 3.0 is not only great because of its skin-safe technology helping to reduce cuts in those oh-so-sensitive areas, but it also has a neat little LED light for those late-night trim sessions. One of my favorite features of the thing, in fact, it's a game changer. And now, the Lawnmower 3.0 is included in the Performance Package by Manscaped. This package comes with the Weed Whacker for those pesky nose and ear hairs, or maybe even those toe hairs that you were all so offended by a few weeks ago. Simply visit manscaped.com/donut for 20% off your order plus free international shipping. No promo code required. Just click the link in the description and Manscaped will hook you up with those discounts. Thank you, Manscaped. Monster trucks are so ingrained in our culture that we sometimes forget how insane they are. They've kind of become this entertainment on par with professional wrestling or the circus. But if you think about it, these trucks are some of the most incredible machines ever made. Modern monster trucks have methanol-powered 1,500 horsepower engines. They ride on 66-inch tall tires and weigh 12,000 pounds. The tires themselves weigh 650 pounds each. And these trucks do flips. They ride on two wheels and regularly fly 40 feet in the air. I could go on and on about the insane specs of monster trucks. In fact, we actually did a bumper-to-bumper on Gravedigger if you want to check that out. But what we really want to talk about today is the unlikely rise of this niche sport and where it all started. We're going to talk about the exact moment that monster trucks were born, working backwards through different milestones that helped shape the modern monster trucks we see today. So what was the moment that really set this sport in motion? We're going to find out. March 25th, 2017 at the Monster Jam World Finals in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. The 18th annual event was just getting started and things were already getting crazy. In the freestyle event, Wildflower was blasting big airs, El Toro Loco was doing backflips, and Gravedigger was doing somersaults somehow. At one point, the driver of Avenger, Jim Kohler, went full send and flew what must have been 60 feet in the air. But Avenger's reign was short as Neil Elliott, in his spike-covered Max D truck, had a nearly flawless run, which included a reverse flip. But what came next shook everyone to their cores. I seriously got chills when I saw this clip. No cap, as the kids say. I feel old just saying that. Lee O'Donnell, driver of VP Racing Fuel's Mad Scientist truck, was having a great run. He was using the entire course and had a good smattering of tricks that went off without a hitch. Towards the end of his run, he started blasting huge airs, and it was clear that he was gearing up for something big. With mere seconds left on the clock, Lee blasted over a tabletop gap, landing hard with a big bounce, which sent his nose up in the air. Lee guns it, getting his truck into what's called a slap wheelie. He then drives straight into the next jump with only his back wheels touching the ground. This sends his truck into a front flip, spinning end over end and landing perfectly on the opposite ramp. This was the first successful front flip ever performed in Monster Jam history.
What? He did a front flip, Ryan? That was insane!
That seems insane to me, sending a 12,000-pound vehicle end over end and actually landing it. Like, how do you practice that? Feels like you have to have a great understanding of your vehicle, know how to do it theoretically, and then just go for it. It's a leap of faith. But this moment wouldn't have been possible had it not been for another leap of faith a few years earlier. March 2010 in beautiful Jacksonville, Florida. Nitro Circus monster truck driver Cam McQueen is competing in a freestyle event in front of a sold-out crowd of over 72,000 screaming monster truck fans. Nearing the end of his run, he blasts his truck towards the side of a jump, sending it straight up into a backflip. He lands all four wheels on the ground. This is the first ever monster truck backflip in competition, but drivers had been attempting them for quite some time. More than a year earlier, none other than Travis Bayboy Pastrana tried one in his backyard with his boy Street Bike Tommy watching from the wings. His attempt was an unsuccessful one, but it's pretty rad that he had the eggs to try it in a vehicle he's not known for being an expert in. That's pretty typical of Travis Pastrana. It is actually very scary, as Travis is going so fast the jump sends his truck super far up into the air and comes down on the roof of the truck. Luckily though, Travis wiggled out of it, relatively unharmed. Backflip attempts go all the way back to the year 2000, where Lyle Hancock attempted a reverse backflip in the very first Monster Jam World Finals, but was unsuccessful. Sure, Cam McQueen holds the record for the first ever backflip in a competition, but if you really want to be a stickler about it, the very first backflip was landed by Larry Quick in his Ghost Rider truck in 2009 at a Monster Jam in Vermont. But since it was done during Larry's encore, it wasn't counted in his run, unfortunately. I was surprised to learn that there are actually a bunch of different types of backflips performed by monster trucks, many of which were pioneered by the dude who first landed one in competition, Cam McQueen. I just have to say, man, that's an amazing name. These backflips include your standard backflip, a reverse backflip, McFlip, which is a corkscrew backflip, and the 360 flare, which was invented just last year by Scott Bluto in El Toro Loco, which is different than when Chris Joslin 360 flipped El Toro. None of these tricks would have been possible without advancements in monster truck technology, specifically their suspension. Think about the insane forces a truck has to deal with, not only just driving around, but how much compression it has to survive after dropping from 50 feet in the air. Had it not been for this innovation, who knows if Monster Jam would even exist today? I'm gonna put on my Jeremiah hat and talk about some of this innovation. The way these trucks are able to do such big jumps is because of these big burly bypass tube shocks, which are much stronger than anything you need for your average truck. But then again, you aren't flying through the air nearly as much as Monster Jam drivers. Jim Vaders was the first driver to have this type of shock in his truck, the Black Stallion 2. But like everything in the monster truck world, it wasn't an overnight development. Jim's 1982 Ford F-350 started its life as a bone stock truck. First, he put a 12-inch lift kit on it because that was the biggest kit he could find. Then he dropped in a Ford Big Block 460 engine in it, put some planetary gears in there, then 66-inch tires, and soon it was one of the biggest trucks around. But as the jumps got bigger and the drops became more violent, he was gonna need to beef up that suspension as well. That's a lot of stress you're putting on your butt. He ripped out the leaf springs and replaced them with air suspension. During a show in Bloomberg, Pennsylvania in 1991, Jim's truck experienced a disturbing rollover, which left him pretty shook. It dawned on him that the airbags just weren't gonna cut it. So that's when he turned to his friends at King Shocks, known for making beefy off-road shocks. Together, they developed special bypass tube shocks that could absorb tons of impact with an incredible 26 inches of travel possible. This was the first time this kind of shock was used in the monster truck circuit, but after other drivers saw how well it worked with what they were doing, it soon became the standard. The technology kept getting better and better, and by the late 90s, Vader's Black Stallion truck had shocks with 36 inches of vertical travel. Insane. Nowadays, monster trucks have 4 nitrogen-filled shocks per wheel, which allows the jumps to be bigger and the compression to be more intense than ever before. But it's not just the shocks that help dampen the drops. The tires are inflated to only 20 pounds per square inch to provide an extra dab of cushion for the landing. The moment Jim Vaders put these shocks on his truck in the early 90s, there was no going back. Everything from there on out was only gonna get more insane. Another thing happened in 1992 that could be viewed as possibly the most important thing to happen in monster truck history. The first televised monster truck race, the Monster Jam. This event, held in the now demolished Pontiac Silverdome, was put on by the USHRA, the US Hot Rod Association, and featured trucks like Hammer Time, Bad Medicine, and King Crunch, Captain Crunch's older brother. But the star of the show was a truck that was already a household name, and that name was Bigfoot. The event featured a race that was 2 straights with 1 hairpin turn. Bigfoot had been dominating in the preliminary rounds, which culminated in a final heat against Snakebite. The final flag waved and the driver of Bigfoot, Andy Brass, mashed the throttle. The trucks were neck and neck around the turn, so whichever truck got to the jump on the backstretch first would take the championship. The drivers gunned it and Bigfoot got a slightly better launch, taking him over the crushed cars and securing his win mere inches ahead of Snakebite.
Bigfoot wins! Yes, Bigfoot defeats Snakebite in the Pontiac Silverdome.
It was a spectacular finish for the first ever Monster Jam event. Finally, people who had never seen anything like this before were now fans. Kids at home picked their favorite truck like picking their favorite wrestler. Each truck had a unique personality, and at the center of it all, Bigfoot. For fans at home, this might have been their first exposure to Bigfoot, but for the last decade, this truck had been innovating at every turn, going bigger, stronger, higher, and louder. And it was all because of one dude, Bob Chandler, the granddaddy of monster trucks. One day, Bob had an idea that was a little crazy, okay? He wondered if Bigfoot could drive over other cars. There wasn't any intention behind it, he just wanted to see if it was possible. So Bob and his friends set up some junkers and a video camera and filmed Bigfoot attempting to drive over these cars. Sure enough, it did so with ease. The first time it drove straight over the cars. The second time, he stopped the truck on top as if to say this feat had been conquered. Like an early 80s version of YouTube, the video made the rounds, and at a certain point, a promoter saw it. He pleaded with Chandler to recreate the stunt in front of a crowd, but Chandler was hesitant, surprisingly. Why would anyone want to come out and see a truck drive over cars? What if no one showed up? There were a lot of unknowns. It took constant persuasion to convince Bob Chandler to agree to crush some cars, but finally he relented and agreed to perform the stunt again. So Bob brought his truck to Columbia, Missouri, where the promoter had lined up 4 dilapidated cars in a square. A large crowd had gathered. With an effortless grace, Bob drove Bigfoot up and over the cars, crushing them in a spectacular fashion. The onlookers went nuts. All of Bob's worries and insecurities were drowned out by the roar of the crowd. He didn't realize what he had hit on, but he knew there was something special in this odd form of entertainment. In his own words, it was a fluke. From this point on, all Bob did with his trucks was crush cars and race at events. Obviously, Bob Chandler did more to develop and promote monster trucks than most people, but he wasn't the only one to thank for its success. Everett Jasmer built a truck called USA 1, built on a Chevy CK that rivaled Bigfoot early on. Both trucks appeared in the show That's Incredible in 1983, competing against each other. This is actually the first official monster truck rivalry ever, and it drove innovations that helped the sport evolve. Bob Chandler was very competitive and always strived to make Bigfoot the biggest, most powerful truck out there. After copycat trucks started claiming the title of biggest truck in the world, Chandler put 10-foot tires on Bigfoot and made sure no one could get close to retaking that title of the world's biggest truck. It actually took 16 more years, but eventually Bigfoot 5 was recognized as being the world's tallest, widest, and heaviest monster truck at a staggering 20 foot 5 inches long, 15 feet 6 inches high, and an insane 38,000 pounds. A partnership with Ford in 1983 helped offset the massive cost associated with maintaining these vehicles and swapping out parts, but more importantly, the partnership made everyone realize that there was room in the sport for big money sponsorships. It wasn't just a backyard hobby anymore, it was a full-blown industry, and Bob Chandler made that happen. And it wouldn't have been possible without that first show in Columbia, Missouri back in 1982. Let me know in the comments what your monster truck would be. I want to know what its name is, what the gimmick is. I want you to get creative. I think that hockey mascot Gritty would make a really good monster truck. Like the windshield could just be his huge eyes, and then you just have like giant pool noodles as his hair. I think that'd be pretty cool. I want to see what you guys can come up with. Be kind. See you next time. Nailed it.